Good afternoon, everybody. This is Welfare in the Welfare All-Stars team on tnsradio.ning.com and scottishsovereignsontheland.ning.com. Good afternoon, everybody. I've got Nick and Neo with me, as usual. Jack's in the background of running stuff. Today's going to be a bit of an informal show. We hope to cover the stuff that you guys want to talk about, but I've had a bit of a crap. We've had a bit of a crap. We lost one of the pups on Friday to Parvo, and we're absolutely devastated. I'm still crying my eyes out about it. I'm absolutely heartbroken. So I've not done any research, but there are lots of things that I want to talk about. My son had a work programme appointment yesterday, and he was made to go on work programme this morning. So I want to sort of talk about that quite a bit, because I'm absolutely disgusted about the whole thing, about how the whole thing has been handled, where he's working, etc. But we'll talk about that later. Also want to, chuck out and talk about the Data Protection Act and work programme and accessing data. Hopefully, I know Will kindly emailed me, and also Blue Skies did too. I'm really sorry for not getting back to you. I hope what I've just said explains why I haven't. Literally haven't been. I didn't check my emails till yesterday. Nick and Neo have been holding, the welfare fort, really, because I just haven't been up to it. So they've just been doing a great job. I'm just so grateful to all of you, really, for being there for us. So thank you. So hopefully that's, if anybody wants to ring in, that's the other thing. I noticed, and I looked in the chat box last week, and people are, posting stuff, and I apologise it wasn't live last week. I had other issues going on. I had to go to an inquest, which wasn't nice either. So I've not really had a great time. But there you go, it's life, isn't it? Right, so we're going to kick off as usual with our news stories, but from then on it's going to be pretty informal. Right, I'm going to kick off with the lovely story about the Jubilee and the mandatory work activity placements. So, here we go. Hold on. An investigation has been launched into how unpaid workers bussed into London for the Diamond Jubilee celebrations were left stranded in the middle of the night. The unpaid workers could get restitution as a result. The company responsible for providing the government's work programme scheme in South West England said. Prospects Group said it was launching the inquiry following allegations the job seekers were forced to sleep in the cold under London Bridge before the Thames pageant celebrations. The firm said it was investigating the actions of employment charity Tomorrow's People, which was involved in organising the placements, and security firm Close Protection UK, which provided stewards at the Jubilee events. A statement on the Prospects Group website said, following adverse press reports relating to the working conditions and supervision of a number of trainees over part of the bank holiday weekend, Prospects, as the prime contractor for the work programme in the South West, will carry out a full investigation to ascertain the facts and make recommendations for the future. Yeah, right, in brackets. Right. The firm added, the intention is that after ascertaining the facts, restitution may be made to affected clients if appropriate and lessons learned for the future. Right. There's a bit more, but I'll skip that bit and I'll go to the... Right, hold on. According to reports, the job seekers from South West England had to change into security gear in public and could not access a toilet for 24 hours. After a 14-hour shift in the rain on Sunday, marshalling crowds who had turned up to watch the river pageant, they were then taken to a swamp-like campsite outside London, it was claimed. But Molly Prince, managing director of Close Protection UK, said the situation had been exaggerated. The work programme is about giving people who have often been out of the workplace for quite some time the chance to develop the skills they need to get a job that is sustainable. This is a one-off. That was a number 10 spokesman. I'll post that in a sec in the chat box. But that's my news story. And I don't know, I couldn't stomach watching any of that Jubilee crap. And I know pretty much everyone was of the same opinion. But the weather, can you imagine sleeping out in that after being, being slave laboured all day doing that for your job seekers allowance, which you should be getting anyway, being made to, having to sleep under a bridge, well, just having to sleep outside after you've been working, after not being able to go to the toilet, after not being fed. Just absolutely disgusting. Okay, that's my news story. I'll pass. I don't know who wants to go next. Neo? Hello?
Hi, sorry, I had my mic muted.
Yeah, I just had my mic muted as well. I just went on a tangent.
Sorry.
Nobody heard me.
I've done that before.
I know.
Thinking nobody's actually listening. Great.
I'll go on about these Workfare and job seekers allowance and what your rights are with data protection just quickly then. There's 5 points here, and let's start with your rights. So number 1, Data Protection Act rights. So under the Data Protection Act, you do not have to let any providers or subcontractors of the work program, mandatory work activity, or the community action program share your personal information with any employers or training providers. Number 2, signing work program documents. Department of Work and Pensions, Job Centre and Action for Employment. Confirm that you do not have to sign any work program action plan, employment plan, work program agreement, or work program consent form. And number 3, leaving a new job and employment on trial rules. When you start a new job under employment on trial rules, you can leave the job and reclaim job seekers allowance without any benefit sanctions affecting a new JSA claim. And number 4, work trials. The job centre or any Workfare provider or subcontractor might suggest for an existing vacancy you do an unpaid work trial. This Job Centre Plus scheme is entirely voluntary. Okay. 5, job centre job brokerage services in your CV. You do not have to let the job centre retain a copy of your CV, and you do not have to let them apply for a job on your behalf through its jobs brokerage service. Okay, that's the 5 points. There's another page I might just quickly get into is, are you a DWP job centre customer or a welfare to Workfare program or worried about a referral? You need to protect your personal information. So number 1 point here is consent form. Never sign this data protection waiver when you attend any welfare to work program appointment. Your entitlement to welfare benefits does not depend upon signing it, and any form like it can be ignored. Number 2, withdraw consent. You can use this standard letter to withhold or withdraw consent and secure your data protection rights from the following DWP welfare to work schemes: the work program, mandatory work activity, community action program. Number 3, sign here please. Check out the dedicated page and the fact that you do not have to sign many job centre and work program documents like action or employment plans or forms to acknowledge receipt of provider or subcontractor letters, attendance and induction sessions, declarations or agreements. But anyway, I need to get into the chat box actually. I'm going to, because I'm very clever at forgetting, I'm going to copy the link to this site so people get a better understanding, because there's other links to it with other bits and pieces of information. So that's me for the moment until I come across the next part. So if anyone wants to carry on with anything.
Just thinking on that, to be honest, Neo, I think it's just good general advice anyway, is just be aware if they're trying to rush you into signing stuff, trying to make you hurried or confused. Always take the right. If you're not sure, say, look, I want to take this away and consider it. I will deal with it. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, we have the most basic right even to do that, to just to say, look, well, if I don't understand something, I need to get third-party advice, possibly.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, if you don't understand something, you don't understand something. I need to get some advice. And
if
that's
you don't
rough.
understand it, you don't sign it.
Exactly. Well, yeah, but good points.
I think, in some ways, I know it was requested because I'd looked at it, and when I'd seen these forms, I think in specific reference to, I think someone had mentioned about the Workfare forms, and I looked at them and, there was a very overt statement there of saying you don't have to consent. You can withdraw your consent at any time. And I thought, well, okay, if you've taken the time to read that, just read it, look at it and say, well, okay, says here I don't have to consent. What's the problem? I don't want to consent.
Well, yeah, absolutely, yeah. I mean, when I said, it's quite a while back now, but I mean, when I when they were trying to, I think they were trying to discuss with me or whether or not they were going to sanction me, and I told them there and then I wasn't going to consent. You know, I mean, the thing is that they don't really kind of give you a bit of a blank expression. They did with me anyway, but you know, I think you've got to tell them outright immediately that if you do not agree with something, then you don't consent to something.
Yeah,
use that terminology constantly. Don't refuse. Just say I don't consent. Yeah.
I think there's so many ways to go at it. I know in some ways, certainly with this Workfare thing, I think when someone had first said Data Protection Act, I was thinking about the subject access thing, which is a totally, in a way, it's a different approach to something else. But even on that, I know from recently talking to people, that's got limitations.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, Welfare has been called away on a call, so would you like me to go to a tune while you're waiting for her return?
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Okay, it sounds like she's just coming off that call anyway. I'll go to a tune anyway. You've got a couple of minutes.
All right.
Who's the girl there? I wonder what went wrong so that she had to run.
Hello, everybody. Massive apologies about me just sort of dropping off there. I don't know if anyone even noticed, but I've just got a phone call from the DWP. I've been having some problems with a claim. I was getting JSA, claiming job seekers, and changed my claim to income support so I can claim carers allowance to somebody. I knew it wasn't going to be easy. I knew there'd be a break in the claim, and I was a bit prepared with a bit of money, put it aside for it. Last paid on the 8th of May, 2 crisis loans later, still no money. Went down this morning at 9:30, another crisis loan. Back there this afternoon before this to fax my statement off. Guess what? Somebody just rang me, which I actually can't believe. Faxed the statement, got back here, rang to see if they'd received it. Guess what? They hadn't received it. If you fax something, I mean, what can you say when they don't receive it? I was doing this, so, and to be honest, I'm really not up for a row at the minute anyway. I'm just not, not together enough headwise to, be savvy enough with them. So I thought I'll leave it till tomorrow. But somebody just rang me back, this really nice guy that posted the statement to me in the first place. He rang me back, gave me the right fax number, so I've got to go back to Peckham Job Centre again and fax it again. And hopefully, it'll be a calendar month that we haven't been paid, and we've had £150 crisis loans in those 4 weeks. We get tax credit, and child benefits, so we'll, have had some money coming in, but what about those people that haven't? We're struggling, with the bit of money coming in. I'm just outraged at their behaviour and how appalling they behave to everybody. Right, before I go on my rant about the work programme, I wanted to talk about the Data Protection Act and the work programme, and to be honest, I don't know too much about it, and so I will sort of chip in, but I'm just going to bring Nick and Leo in because I know that they've got more knowledge about the subject than I have.
We just went around that one. I'm
sorry?
We did that one just before we went for the break.
No, just talk about it in general. It was what they wanted. It was wanted to be discussed, wasn't it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's still more information on this site about that, and with data protection. It's really, when it comes to DWP, it really is just about consent. You don't have to give your consent for any data that they consider that they somehow wish to use. Even on your behalf. I mean, you can just say, I don't consent to any of that information being used. So, unless you're contracting directly with the employer, then you can share your personal information with them if you so wish, but certainly not through the DWP. You don't have to give your consent at all. No. That's really all I know. That's really what, at the basic level, I know about it. You know.
I think it was the invasive nature of it. It wasn't just a case of them data sharing at that time. It was the fact that if you left, once you'd finished their work experience and went on to full-time work, they wanted to talk to your next employer to know how much you were getting paid and what your job was and was it permanent. And that information would be going to them as well.
Yeah. Yeah, so try and protect your privacy, you know.
So you don't have to, because I remember when I first signed on, I'm trying to sort of go back and wrap my brains, it wasn't that long ago, but if anyone's got anything to input, then please put in the chat box or, you know, phone in. It was something that you guys, you know, people wanted to talk about. It's something that... Okay, is it about this? Is it about data protection? Okay, well, we'll do that after. Sorry, you just threw me. What was I just saying? Sorry, my head's really not all there. Sorry, Jack, you really threw me. What was I just saying? Yeah, really useful. Yeah, so they can. When I first signed on, they asked you for your CV. I just said I had one. It was fine. It didn't need updating. It was my business. And to be honest, I didn't say it was my business. I just said I've got one. It's fine. It doesn't need updating. The only thing that I signed, I'm trying to remember, but I know the job seekers agreement. But I made sure that there was stuff in the job seekers agreement that would be, beneficial to me if I ever needed any sort of opt-out time. We've got, Michael, we do get a DLA for Michael, so, he's a disabled child. So, if I do I used to have to leave work to go and pick him up if there'd been an incident or an accident, or, a teacher wanted to see me, or for whatever reason. So if I have to go quickly, I have to go. If I can't, if I'm late to sign on, I'm late to sign on. It was in my job seekers agreement. I made sure it was there from the very start. I know you can add it in later on, but if you can get it in, first, I think it's just better. Then you know where you are. So with things like, to be honest, I haven't had enough time really, and I've not been together enough to read about it. But Will sent me some docs that were around. So I'm trying to pull them up. Data consent agreement. Your details will only be shared with your consent, and only where it is relevant and necessary to. So absolutely, and I categorically 100% agree. Do not sign anything like this if you don't want to. Don't have to. Why would you? Read what they present to you. And a lot of us have got issues around literacy. There is no shame in saying, I need 10 minutes to be able to read this. My son was called to a CTEC interview yesterday, and he said they gave him loads of forms to fill in. He took his time. He was being hassled to sign them. He was like, no, I want to read them. And Charlie, is dyslexic, so his reading isn't really fast, but he was going to be damn sure that he read those documents before he signed them. So make sure you read before you sign anything, and only sign what you have to, what you want to. I think my understanding of this is that it doesn't stop them referring you to the work placement. It only stops them claiming back their money for the placement. I think that's correct. Is it, Nick?
From what I gather, I don't know if someone who knows more about this and been through it, I haven't been through any of this to be able to comment fully. If they want to comment about that, I don't know if there's a specific option that you don't have to go and do this. As far as I can tell, there are voluntary and mandatory programs, but if you turn down the voluntary programs, they then decide that you should be on a mandatory program.
Well, this was the other thing, and again, I feel that I've let Charlie down. As I said, for Charlie, and it is again relevant because it's around the work program. He's been signing on since November. He's 20. First time he's ever signed on when I lost my job, because he had to. Signed on, so he's only been signing for just over 6 months. He's 20. Got a letter, no, he went to sign on last week and they gave him a letter telling me he had to go to an appointment with CTEC, who are the work programme provider in our area. The appointment was for yesterday at 9:30 in Lewisham, which is about, 20 minutes, half hour on the bus from here. He went to that appointment and he said it was like pandemonium there. He had to start, he was expected, all 30 of the people that were called to the meeting, to the appointment yesterday, were made to start their placement the following day. So Charlie had to start a placement this morning in Woolwich, which is, he left at 8:30 this morning because he has to get to, a bus which takes sort of 45 minutes, hour and 15 minutes depending on the traffic. That's Woolwich, we're in sort of Peckham, New Cross. So he's got to do that. How's he going to eat? I mean, this is what he said he raised, and everyone was, causing absolute stink about it, was how the hell are they going to, who's going to pay for their food while they're out? And he is working in a charity shop, and every placement from CTEC was in a charity shop. I mean, Charlie was more than happy to do any placement if it was going to be beneficial to him or the community, or preferably both. He was looking at, he was actually saying to us, it's all right. Do you know what I mean? If they might offer me something decent, it could be, gardening or, clearing even clearing the litter from, the parks, or working in the library, doing something in the community. He would have been really happy doing, even plastering, just helping an electrician or, some sort of trade. But no, he's a shop assistant in the British Heart Foundation charity shop in Woolwich for the next 4 weeks, 30 hours a week. And he is not going to get a job out at the end of this. It is slave labour. And I'm just disgusted that I would not ever be expected to go for a job interview and start the following day. And if I didn't, I would lose my money. I wouldn't be paid. Because that is all that was said to him. He came home with, 3 or 4 bits of paper, and all of them, none of them went on about the possible, and from my understanding, the work programme part for young people under 25s is work experience, and it's voluntary. It's voluntary, but you have to decide to leave within the calling off period, which is a week, the first week. So if you don't tell them that you don't want the placement within the first week, then you will be sanctioned. But that was my understanding of the work programme for under 25s. I haven't had time to look, and I feel like I've let him down, because he got back last night and he was like, I've got to be at work, I've got this placement tomorrow in Woolwich. I've got to be there by 10. He has to go. If he doesn't go, he's going to lose he'll lose his money, 13 weeks' money. And for what? If he was going to get a job at the end, absolutely fantastic. Or even if it was helping somebody else, fantastic. But it's not. Who's this actually helping?
It's actually worse. I have a different story on this, and this is only through a close friend of ours. She actually works in a local museum, and one of her management jobs is to deal with the voluntary people who work there, as they have done for many years. It's one of the ways students get experience and things. They work unpaid. And she is furious because she actually highlighted a story. One of the voluntary museum workers had to give up her voluntary museum work because the job centre made her go and work in a charity shop.
That's shocking.
And this is someone trying to do something of benefit to the community, is actually getting up and doing something which they should be getting applauded for that. They should be given credit for that at the job centre. They shouldn't be told, you cannot do that, you must do the work experience that we tell you to do.
It is outrageous. It's just shocking. But again, why the fuck are charities taking on work experience or mandatory work program placements? Why are they doing it? All the big companies, Tesco's, fucking Poundland, whoever they are, none of them, they wouldn't dare put any of these placements forward now after the publicity that they've had, they're nicking paid workers' jobs, which they are. I could rant on forever at the minute, especially the mood I'm in. So I know I actually did want to bring it back to the work placement bit. So even if Charlie hadn't signed,
Okay.
I don't know whether Charlie did give them a CV. I actually think he did because I actually helped him.
Where are you?
Sorry, somebody was just talking to. Oh dear, sorry. Yeah, I completely lost my thread there, so I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, I'm claiming JSA, and I've been claiming JSA for quite a few months now. So you never know. I mean, I could end up in the same situation in the next few months as well. So I mean, it's like I've got to begin to get my head around a lot of this work program stuff, or what they're going to try and shove in my way. So and even I mean, I am obviously applying for this and applying for that, and I really don't expect to be offered much, and I don't get offered much. In fact, since I've started claiming GSA, I haven't been asked for a single interview, and they've been pushing this on me, and they take these steps, take those steps, and usual, fill out this form, do this job, and whatever, apply for this job, and there's still no offers from anybody.
Come here.
For me.
So,
I mean, God knows what's going to happen in a couple of months with me. So, going to stick me in a charity shop as well? Or are they just sticking under 25s in the charity shops? And why charity shops? Why are they getting primary selection, Why are they getting primary selection?
Because the big companies won't take them. Do you remember all the uproar when Tesco's were taking on work placement people? It was, people that were actually working there and earning their living there. They were having their hours taken away by the work placement people. So, people were working, it is slave labour, and you're taking jobs from other people, because you are. There is no job at the end of this for Charlie or for any of these young people. If there was, it may be slightly different, because it might be a stepping stone for some. Again, completely wrong being made to do this, but, you might have to look at this in a different way sometimes. I just wonder how many people have been signing on for the short length of time that Charlie has and been sent to do this. And I wonder, how do they pick you? What is it? He's only been signing for 6 months. Other people have been signing for longer, haven't been called to it. How do they choose you? If anyone's got any ideas, or I don't think they want to contribute, I'm actually not looking in the chat box. I can't do two things at once, but I will look in. I will look back when there's a tune on.
Let me just put me on here.
Fairy, I know you're not actually looking in there, but
I am.
I was just checking. I know Scottish Sovereign, someone actually put up about this. Something called Pat's petition. I don't know. I seem echoey. Am I coming through okay?
Better now.
Okay. Sorry, I was a bit echoey then. It just sounded a bit weird with something coming back at me. This is an online petition. Scottish Sovereigns have already had it posted up. I think the headline is "Stop and Review the Cuts to Benefits and Services which are falling disproportionately on disabled people, their carers and families." Responsible Department for Work and Pensions. I'll post the link up. It's quite a short issue. I'll post it across to TNS, and they can read through. It's not that long, government petition though, but there's been such an upsurge. I know from I think from what Will gave us as a link, I think it goes another site, DWP Examination, which I think is one person's blog posting up huge amounts of information all around a lot of the benefit system. I think, this is where that came from. We're getting our sources from 2 or 3 others. There's a few blogs posting. I know specific news places are coming together. We're starting to talk. I think the one thing you were saying about they're expecting people to just go out and do this voluntary work. I'm hoping that we're going to get this lady who wrote the really in-depth article which actually talks about what their actual thinking is and how this works and how they actually made their scientific models to justify what they're doing.
Good. Interesting. Be great to have her.
Well, we're hoping to hear back from her. It's been a bit quiet in the last couple of days, but the article itself, I don't think any of us, even alone, could sit there and actually think to read it out. The meaning is quite in-depth. They're talking about basically what they're talking in terms of, I think it's the biopsychosocial model. Which,
The what?
The biopsychosocial model. Well, brief rundown on what the article actually says is that basically a lot of social theory to disabled or disadvantaged people has been shaped by a particular model or scientific theory of thinking. I think it's called the society model. It was fashioned by disabled people. She talks about certain groups who campaigned. I think there was something about like a Leonard Cheshire home where people felt like they were being treated like prisoners and campaigned to have more freedom. So a lot of things with the welfare state evolved around that is trying to help disabled people integrate into society. But they seem to have this new model now, is that anyone who's disabled is suffering by being workless because work can actually be very beneficial and good for your health.
Well, work can be beneficial to your health, but work you want to do, not your slave labour, working in a fucking charity shop, which is going to take you nowhere.
Yeah, work what you're happy with doing, work that you've been, you wanted to do, whatever career-minded you are, whatever trade you're in. If you love that, then that's fine. But, a lot of people, they're in jobs they hate, or they're being forced into jobs they hate. It's not a very fair system at all. It's just force.
Well, it's having to get up every day, and, Charlie again made the point at this session, how can he be actively job-seeking if he's doing this wank placement? Sorry, but he's got a fucking point, isn't he? Excuse my
language. Is that a direct quote?
I don't know. I want to get... Charlie's more than willing to come on and have a chat about this. He did say try and do a bit of recording, but I don't, I don't really want him to. If he's up for doing that, that's fine. Yeah. Sorry, I read something and I completely lose...
We all know it is rubbish. It's a matter of just shuffling the numbers around.
Again, yeah, I think it is. But the thing with the data protection, don't sign what they're asking you, what they're wanting you to sign. Again, if signing this means that they're not going to get their money for their placement, their measly few quid for your blood and your tears, they don't give them that, but you still have to do the fucking placement, don't you? It doesn't get you out the placement. Is that right? Can somebody just put yes or no, or in the chat box, have I got that right? Because
I'm not aware of any solution. I think the only thing you can do is do it in your way.
Because of course this is absolutely, it's something that we should be shouting out loud. Don't sign, be polite, smile, read everything they present to you, but know at the end of it that you're still going to have to do their slave labour, but at least they ain't going to get paid for it. That's what it is as far as I understand it. If I'm wrong, somebody please tell me.
You're not wrong. It's part of what they want. They want people moving around.
Yeah, I know I was having a quick chat with somebody in the help group, and it was the same, pretty much, a similar conversation that I'd had, with someone else and somebody else before that, who'd been, again, it's around ESA and work capability assessment, and is it worth going through all that? And, going through the grief, the hardship, the stress, etc., when you can just go and sign on every fortnight. I know for sick people, if you are sick, you can't sign on. It's like a catch-22. You have to tell them when you go to sign on that you are, actively, and you are active enough to be able to seek work. So if you're sick but you don't want to go down the ESA route, and I don't know, people have asked me, and I can no longer, in good spirit, tell people, advise them to claim ESA without knowing the real facts around claiming ESA, how hard it's going to be. Even if you are really very, very sick, you are going to have to fight for that money. If you are not ready, able or willing to fight for that money, then I could only suggest to you to sign on. It's shoving people from one to another, getting them off ESA, getting them off the sick benefit, getting them onto job seekers, so the work figures go up. It's the signing, the job seekers figures, claiming figures go up, but the disability figures go down. It is shuffling. It's whatever's in the news. It's whatever's, I don't know, good for whatever agenda is being pursued at that time, I think.
Well, there is part of it that job seekers allowance came in quite a while back, and that did actually shunt a lot of people towards incapacity benefit, because the one came before, JSA came before, then ESA has come in now and effectively started a wave backwards. What you say, you had one conversation, I know of a couple of other people who've said basically they gave up. They didn't have the energy to fight their way to have people acknowledge that they were sick, and they said it's easier to sign on. I think I know of another girl here, I live on my tax credits. She doesn't actually claim enough benefits, but it's easier to do that, to have a stability of income that's lower, just to have some sort of stability to keep living your life.
That's not. I've heard of a few people that won't make a claim with the DWP and will live either on just DLA, not claim income support, whatever, or just claim tax credits, just so they do not have to go through the horrors that you have to.
What about the people who can't claim every 2 weeks? You see, about people, because you have to go to the job centre to sign.
Exactly.
So if you're sick and you're in a position where you are, you either can't move that well, you have mental problems or whatever. How do you deal with that? You have to travel to go to your local job centre every 2 weeks. How do you deal with that? Because obviously ESA is there to. It is just such a stressful time under ESA. You're continuously getting sick notes going to your doctor, and then going through not work assessments, but going through work assessments, and going through all the other ATOS crap and all of that. It's just, I can't. It's amazing. I just can't get my head around it. It's absolute nuts. It really is just nuts. All this, what they put forward here for people,
I know what you mean about job seekers, and again, it's informing people as much as possible. So if I know somebody should be claiming ESA and they ask me my advice, I will give them the advice, the best advice I possibly can. I will tell them everything I know, but I will inform them of how difficult it is, and I'll show them, I'll let them see links or whatever, but I will make sure that they are fully aware of the fight that they're going to have, because I don't think it's fair that you don't know that. I really don't. I think if you go and claim ESA with a sick note and think that you're not well enough mentally or physically to be able to sign on, keep it together in this world at the moment, in whatever way, shape or form, then why should you have to claim job seekers? But what do? If you are not able to go down that route, if you're not physically or mentally prepared enough to go, to fight them, and all of you that are listening that are personally involved with ESA in one way or another, or know somebody, I'm sure we all do. Do you? Know that what those people have been through. Then if you advise them, there's a JSA option. You've still got to be fit enough, and you've got to sign stating that you are fit enough to be able to, I think it's to actually get to sign on. I actually can't remember what it's the specific. You have to state that you are well enough. So you're lying to claim JSA, but you've got to live one way or another, don't you?
Was this not a case, I think someone mentioned somewhere about they wouldn't be able to get on a bus because of a back condition, but if you actually tell the job centre that, they're quite happy to accept it, but they won't pay you?
That was, it was somebody in the help group was talking about it. What a position to be put in, not wanting, having had that awful time with ESA, having no choice to be able to live, because they're single man, single man, so claimant on his own, no other money coming in. What does he do? He's got to claim a benefit, doesn't he? So he's got to lie to claim JSA.
Yeah. And JSA, they say you have to be capable and ready for work to claim JSA, but you're not. But under ESA, the doctor says, or the nurse, or whoever they are in the assessment says you are, but you're not. It's just. I think it's just. I don't know what it is. It's a constant catch-22. It's almost like it's this stupid little game that's going on.
But it's like it's whether you choose to be on the wheel or not.
Yeah, I know.
If you want to be a disabled person, you have to choose. Do you want to get on that wheel? Because it'll throw you off in about 6 months' time, if you're lucky, maybe 12 months. You might get to stay on. You never know. But it will throw you off. You'll be back signing on again before you know it too long. But then you could get back on again after a bit longer. But it'll throw you off again. Yeah, how long before you just really get so sick and tired of it all? Get so sick and tired of looking at forms that ask questions at such length.
Yeah.
And read the questions on the forms when you're reading them. Read them out loud and see if you can do it without running out of breath. It's quite hard. A lot of this is intentional. It all wears you down and grinds you down.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. You wonder why people are getting sicker, right?
Sorry, guys.
We're coming up to the hour. Do you want to go to a tune?
Yeah, what I was going to say was I've just heard that I think I can read Will's email out, but I just want to check that that's okay. I don't want to go on and read it when it's sort of a second message to me. I just want to check because it's personal. So we'll stick a tune on, I'll check that out, and we'll be back shortly, guys. Right, hello again, everybody. Thank you for listening to that. That was Praise You, Fatboy Slim, and I played that especially for my little baby little one that we lost at the weekend. Right, I'm going to read out Will's email. It's been okayed, so I'm happy to read that out. Okay, here we go. Attention, Welfare. They need your consent to force you to be a slave for Tesco's or any other corporation. See attachments. And he's attached some documents, which I hope I'm sort of going to skip through those in a minute. If you don't sign their DPA, Data Protection Act consent forms, you won't be affected and you will still get your money. And I think that's a pretty important point because that's what everybody, needs to know that you can sign it, you're going to be, you'll still get paid, but they won't get their money. So sort of a win-win, really. Okay, you may disseminate this info, including the news report interview of 16th May 2012 from a lady with first-hand knowledge of the Dole office and their antics. Please do not use our names. It's all consent-based and people should not be so fearful. Act in haste, repent at leisure. Thank you. Bill Anonymous, our names are copyrighted. Yeah, absolutely. I agree, it's all consent-based and people should not be so fearful. But some people are, and it's just a fact that, other people will be slower to do things that you are doing now. It's sort of tread carefully. And I think you did say, act in haste, repent at leisure. You can't just sort of jump in all guns blazing sometimes. You've got to, go with the flow, go at your own pace. And you're right about not being so fearful. But again, people have got to do it at their own pace. We've just got to be there to support them. I hope it's okay to go through the docs. I'm assuming that it will be, because there's nothing in there that isn't, public knowledge anyway, and I'm certainly not going to be reading out any names. It's a data consent agreement. It just basically states that they hold and process information received by them for the purpose of planning a program to meet your individual needs. To work in a charity shop, helping you to access appropriate work placement and advisory services in a charity shop. All details will be held within secure computerised and paper-based systems, accessible only to those who need to use it. Okay, now if you believe that, you believe anything. So just be careful what you sign, read what you sign. There's no embarrassment. You shouldn't be embarrassed about taking your time to read something. There's no shame in it. At the end of this form, it just says agreement. I understand how my information will be stored, used and disposed of, and I consent to its use as per the company data protection policy and the data protection outlined above. I understand that my consent is voluntary, that I can access information held about me and withdraw my consent without risk of this affecting any entitlement I have to receive benefits from DWP. Right, this document is one of the schools, one of the work programme documents, I imagine. I don't know if we can get this copied and put on the chat box for people to have a look at. I'll have a word with Will and see what he reckons. Hold on. I think I have lost. I think I've just been logged out of my emails. So give me a sec.
Well, I think if Will's about, can he actually get in touch with us and let us know and we can post it up? Or if he wants to post it up on TNS, Scottish Sovereigns.
That would be a far better idea. I'd rather if you could post it, please post it, because I haven't got a clue how to do it, and B, it's your stuff. I will do it, but I think it's probably better coming from you. Okay, was there anything that you or Neo wanted to say, Nick?
There is something I do want to mention. There's been a couple of people on here. Certainly we've got someone posting a lot of very good comments, I think, following up about Unum, also Atos and DLA and the assessments. I think Ruhama, Voynich, thank you very much for all your points. I'm hoping we can get her to come over to Skype chat, because she's making some very important points here, and I don't know if she has something to add to the conversation, or he. I think someone else has made a point on here too as well. I think you have to look at what's going to happen if you're starting to have young people badly treated like this. Someone's making a point of the crime rate increasing. People are going to get sanctioned. If people are going to fall out the bottom, if they're going to have very little left. I'm not going to say that everyone will, but there will be a certain percentage.
Absolutely, there's no doubt.
Well, they're going to be put in a position of no choice. Really, because the benefit system is there to make sure that doesn't happen. Because people aren't criminals by nature. Yeah?
what I will do is I'll photocopy and or scan or whatever you do to post documents in this chat box. So I'll show you the documents that he brought home with him last night. They were so, you must, you will, you must. If you don't, sanction. That was all it was. And, be there, you had like a little graph, not like a little graph, but like a sort of a, where you can like plot times for, during the breakdown of the day. So he's got to be there at 10, doesn't finish till 5, has to take an hour's lunch break, don't get paid for that hour's lunch break. So he's there for, for the hell of it for that hour too. What's he going to do for an hour if it's pissing with rain and he's got no money?
How's he going to get there? Does he have to travel?
Yeah, he's got to get a bus. I mean, he left at 8:30 this morning.
Who's paying for that?
He's got to be there for 10.
Who's paying for that? Who's paying for the bus fare then?
Well, he has to front it and he gets it back twice a week. And again, that's an issue, isn't it?
Of course it is, yeah.
So fares, how's he going to eat as well? I know apparently they refund you, but he was told to go the following day. You have plans with your money. Do you know what I mean? What if you bought something? To be honest, he'd given us all his money because we haven't had any. So he's had to go this morning with very little money, because he's helped us out, with no clue of what he's going to do for an hour, hanging around with people that he probably doesn't want to be with, but he'll probably get on with all of them anyway. But I'm just outraged. I just can't see how anyone can make you, who has the right to make you go to work for 30 hours a week in a place where you aren't going to get a job at the end, where you're going to be treated probably pretty appallingly, because I expect he'll come back today and I'll be surprised if he's treated well. They take quite a few people on placements and, kick them off again. So I can't see it being being treated well. I hope I'm surprised. I can't imagine going for a job interview and being told, start tomorrow. If you don't start tomorrow, you won't get paid. Because that's how it was. And not only will you not get, well, it's actually much worse than that, but I'm trying to, I don't know, find some kind of, parallel, and there just isn't any.
There's no fairness there. There's no fairness there, is there? There's nothing equal there at all.
I think it's also the lack of anything on it. I mean, you say even just the basic questions, that even if you have to go through it, they don't answer of, okay, I can reclaim my expenses. How long does that take? Do I have to do that at the end of the week? So I have to make it through the week and then I get my money? Does it have to go off somewhere? Do I have to wait forever? How do I do this? Are you going to make me keep bus receipts and just be totally anal about it?
Oh yeah, yes. they'll want receipts, mate. Oh yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, everything. They'll have all the paperwork. You've got to prove it. Yeah. They don't trust you. They don't trust you.
Well, it's not you, is it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm sorry. I'm listening. Listening to the Fairy and the way it's going, I'm just getting more frustrated. You probably hear it in my voice. I'm sorry, but
I think everyone is. Though.
Yeah, I know. I'm getting frustrated for them, for everyone.
I just wonder how, you're chosen, and it'll be interesting to hear what this woman has to say around this sort of psychology around their, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. Shall we, I know Sven had a question, are we ready to move on to that yet? Or do anyone have anything?
Yeah, I'll try and find that.
Did you have anything else to add, Nee? I know that you're claiming job seekers, and I know that you're going to be expecting this round the corner, aren't you?
Yeah, more than likely. Yeah, I mean, a few months maybe, something like that. Yeah, I mean, it's just trying to educate oneself into what may or may not happen, and I'm trying to learn lots of different stuff about from TNS and all this information and concerning legal and the lawful and all this kind of whatever, But I mean, it's like I've always said though, and that's okay when they're sort of coming after your ass. They want something from you, but when you're in this situation where you're sort of going to them, I mean, you don't really have much of a choice. You want to eat, right? And it's almost as if the analogy of it is that you got some guy and he's got all the water, He's got the rainwater, he's got the ponds, the rivers, and everything, and you need water to survive. And he says, "Right, I've got all the water. Okay, now you do what I say. You want some, don't you?" I mean, it's that kind of situation. It really is just fret mean, just intimidation. I mean, it really is completely out of order. I mean, it is downright wrong. I mean, if they said to me, if they put me on a work program, I can only go with how I feel, and I just have to say to them, look, that's wrong. I can only express a moral outrage of it. More, because what else can you do? You can only be moral about it, and you can have to tell them that, well, that's wrong. That's wrong, and you know it's wrong. I know it's wrong.
I think an important, two really important things that have come out of today is that we name and shame these charities. I mean, what the hell? I would have expected it from Tesco's, Sainsbury's, to employ people and pay them sweet FA, but a charity? Come on, isn't that?
Yeah, I know.
That's more disgusting for me. Is that not more disgusting? A charity.
I mean, did they consider themselves to be somehow more charitable if they take on these people? I don't think so.
I agree. It's gobsmacking, and we do have to make some kind of stance. We have to do something. We've got to get it out into the public that people are being made to work in a charity shop.
Well, your son Charlie, and maybe he needs to ask them a few questions about how they feel about it.
Oh, he did. Oh, Charlie did yesterday.
He needs to start pumping somebody for some information. He's the boss, the guy there, whoever runs the place, and say, well, what do you know about all this stuff? What do you think about this stuff? Do you agree? Don't you agree?
I think as far as it went, and I think he was pretty angry by the end of it, because he said he kept calling this woman Missy, and it started to piss her off, but he said he was getting really pissed off with it all, because people were asking questions. You've been sent to this thing, and you've got to start work the following day. You've got to think about your travel, your food, everything that you've arranged already, because I know you're not supposed to be arranging things because you're actively seeking work, aren't you? So, but he had plans for this week. Fair enough, he's had to cancel them for that, but it's, how's he going to eat with his, 50 quid a week? How's he gonna eat every day out? They're not going to refund that money. They've already said they will not refund lunch money. So it's going to cost him more to eat out every day, unless obviously he makes sandwiches here. But why the fuck should he? That's not the fucking point, is it?
No. I mean, what if a lot of that money is already going on, say, bills and everything else?
Well, as I said,
normal things like that.
As I said, he gave us all his money. He got his money on Tuesday, and because we didn't have any money, he went to the bank, took it all out, and handed it over to us. I mean, he took some money this morning for his bus and that. But he's a good lad. He wants to do the right thing, and he said he would have done this work experience if they'd given him a decent option. But there was no option, and that was the other thing that he said. It was, you must, you will, you must. Don't ask any questions. Your trouble. It was, you will, you will, you will.
Yeah, but there is no option. I mean, it's ridiculous for them to even mention or even suggest that there's an option when there's no option there. An option is more than one choice. So I mean, when I get round to it, I'm probably going to really. The thing about me is that I'm probably going to get over passionate about it because I know it's wrong, and I expect I'll go in there sometime eventually and just
Sven's question, folks.
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Sorry.
right. No. I think it was really important that we covered this as in depth. I will post those docs up if that's okay. I haven't even checked the chat box, but I'll do that in a sec. I'm going to read this out. It's from Sven. Right. I've made an appeal letter with 22 points on it. Right. Okay. So I assume when you say I've made an appeal letter with 22 points on it, you've failed the working capability assessment, and you've looked at the descriptors, and you've scored yourself 22 points on that. That's what I imagine you mean. I hope that you've backed that up with medical evidence and with your own I don't know, spiel. I'll look at your replies in a minute because I can't do two things at once. Right. Applied for discretionary. It's discretionary housing. housing payment, but it's discretionary extra housing benefit on top of extra housing council tax benefit, and requested a copy of the face-to-face assessment. Okay, so face-to-face assessment, I imagine you're talking about the working capability assessment, as well as seeing my doctor. Right, and just ask if we can post any specific links. I'll try and catch up with him a bit later as well. Right, the question is, you also asked, do I have to get the appeal sent off ASAP, or can I wait a week to perfect it? You don't have to wait. You can send it when you're ready. If you've got a date for the hearing, then you can send in evidence up to the date of the appeal. I think it's up to a week before. It will say on the letter, the appeal letter, if there's any additional evidence, you've got to send it in within a certain period of time before the appeal. But it will say on the letter. But anything that you do send in as additional evidence, they will review, and you will get sent a reconsideration letter stating that, the appeal will go ahead and the evidence, isn't sufficient to change their decision, or they will change the decision and you will be paid. So send in the additional information, make it as tight as possible. If you can, get somebody to look at it with you, somebody with some experience. Nick or I will be happy to look at it, or Neo will be happy to look at it. I'm sure, I speak for all of us. Yeah. All right, hold on. Will that affect the time between getting incapacity benefit and getting JSA? Hold on. Will that affect the time between getting incapacity and getting JSA while still under incapacity regime, not signing on? Right. Will that affect the time between getting? Right. Do you understand? I don't really understand that. Am I being right? Will that affect the time between getting incapacity and getting JSA while still under incapacity regime? Do you understand? I don't understand that.
I don't know. I don't know if it relates to the fact of if you
ask him to rephrase the question.
If you appeal, you are signing on but awaiting the appeal. So I think the conditions are different. Presumably, after the appeal, if you fail, you continue to sign on, but as a normal job seeker. I'm not sure how that still applies at the moment.
Okay, but that's something that we can look at for Sven and get back to him. Right.
Certainly.
Yeah. Right. He says, I am wishing I refused to go, and if Force hadn't signed the data protection at the ATOS, the bit about signing data release I wasn't aware of until after the assessment. They did ask me to sign one at ATOS. Please, Sven, I know you're in the help group now, and I can't look because I just can't. But, we will be around later on after the show. I'll probably jump off for a quick break because I've been sitting down for a while. But, we'll be about after. So, if you can, I think Nick pretty much answered what that question. I don't know if there was anything else that you wanted to ask, Sven. I know that you're in the chat box on TNS. Right. Okay, so no, I made 22 separate points they didn't take into account. Sven, when you say I made 22 separate points that they didn't take into account, so you had the working capability assessment, you failed, so I don't know how many points you scored. The points that you're talking about, did you look at the descriptors and mark yourself on those points? I know that you're. I don't even know if you're listening at the minute, but if you can, that's. If you can reply in the chat box. If not, we'll catch up with you later. Okay. This was. Will there be a gap of a week between changing from incapacity to JSA if I wait a week before sending in the appeal? I have phoned and they have my appeal on record. No. There shouldn't be a gap. It should be a continuous claim. There shouldn't be an issue at all. We'll have a proper chat about this later. But if you've been in touch with the ESA and the JSA section, there should be no issue about it being a continuous claim. You are appealing. Okay.
I think the only thing I would add on that is you quite often do get a continuous claim. I think the only thing to watch out for is, as well, for a lot of people, in housing benefit terms, it may not be. Because I know often you can get breaks in that, quite often a lot more, as a consequence of your benefit stopping and starting. They can sometimes skip a week.
Okay. And, no.
I mean, generally it's just a case of, if something happens, do get onto it.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Well, let's talk to him a bit more about this later as well. But the thing about the discretionary housing payments was something I wanted to give a shout out anyway, because there are quite a few people that have been stuck in this, claiming housing benefit with a private rented place. I'm actually talking to somebody at the moment that's looking to rent privately and looking at the housing benefit, local housing allowance rates. They cap your housing benefit at a certain amount. So if you were living in a property, say, I don't know, 2 years ago, you've been there for, I don't know, a good few years, you're getting housing benefit, you've been getting housing benefit for a while, then they brought in this cap on private rents, and so they will only pay a set amount. If people wanted to remain in their properties, they have to make their rent out of their benefit. Obviously, this for some people is £100 a week, completely impossible. Sometimes it's much less than that, sometimes it's a fiver, sometimes it's 15 quid, sometimes it's 30. Whatever it is, it's coming out of your money and it shouldn't do. You can apply for a discretionary housing payment. You have to apply to your local authority. Most of them, all of them, normally have one of the forms that you can download on the internet. If anyone wants a hand with that, give us a shout, and more than happy to help you. But be careful when you're filling in the form, because it does ask you why you chose that property to live there. So be careful what you say. Just always be careful what you say to these people. You want to get the top up, and they will pay you up to 6 months in advance and 6 months in arrears. So it can, if you are struggling to pay top up rent out of your benefit, definitely worth applying for a discretionary housing payment. Okay, I'm a bit hoarse. Do you want to talk, Nick? Neo?
There was one thing I wanted to add on that. Unfortunately, there was a good site, but it's the DirectGov site, actually has all the listings. I think if you check out the housing benefit rates, they now operate on a system of local rent allowances, depending on how many bedrooms you're allowed.
Yeah.
So you can check out the local rates that apply for your area. And on a wet, rainy day, very similar to the one we have today, I was so bored, I actually spent some time, I went through and I looked at where certain of my friends live, just out of sheer boredom. I looked at their rent allowances, and they're all over the place. There are very strange numbers going on there. In certain places, there's a very high limit for a 2-bedroom flat, and a very low limit for a 1-bedroom flat, or I think they said like shared accommodation. And they totally change as you go across the country in a very strange and weird way that doesn't seem to follow some, I can't really decipher what it is. And then I've looked at people living closer towards London. And I think certain things have gone up, but others haven't.
Well, the person somebody that I'm dealing with at the moment is looking to move into private rented. And we'd had this sort of discussion about local housing allowance and how many bedrooms you're entitled to. She's got sort of 2 kids that are, a male and a boy and a girl that are, I think, like 15 and 18, and she's on, single parent. So she would be entitled for a room for herself, a room for her son, and a room for, for her daughter, 3-bed property. She'd been looking, her understanding of the local housing allowance was that they would pay whatever, so basically her understanding was she'd seen a 4-bed, it could have also been called a 3-bed. So in her opinion, a 3-bed, I think it worked out to 1,400 quid a month, like 320 something quid a week rent for this house. So she would have had to have made up the local housing allowance for that area was like 920 something quid a month. But for her, she would have had to have made up 100 quid a week out of her benefit. So had she taken that property, she would have been screwed, because it would have been practically impossible for her to apply for a discretionary housing payment when she had gone in renting a property knowing that she would have had to have made that money up out of her benefit. So yeah, you're right. It is well savvy. Look at the local housing allowance rates for, you know, the borough, or I don't know, the authority that you live in, and then look for your property. Don't do it the other way. Don't go looking at houses and go, oh, that one's right nice. It's a nice semi-detached house with 2 reception rooms, a garage, and this and that, because they won't pay it. They just will not pay it anymore. And really, I don't really think that you should be getting it doesn't matter. I won't say what I think.
No, but it's a relevant point. I think there was one of the news items I flagged up. We have this, and it seems to be falling out in all sorts of different places. And there was one I think we saw, Worcester County Council, or certain disabled people may be forced into care homes because it might be a cheaper option for their housing, not because they have the need for it.
Have you got a bit more? I mean, what were their kind of plans?
Well, they're talking about a consultation document, so maybe they were only joking.
I doubt it.
The consultation process has been poorly publicised. Complained Simon Heng, former chair of the Worcester Association of Service Users. I only found out about the public consultation meeting in Kidderminster Town Hall on 15th of May, 4 days before it took place. There may be other people who could be affected who would have wanted to attend but were not aware it was happening. As a result, this consultation meeting in Kidderminster, only one of 3 planned open consultations across the county. There were only a handful of members of the public, in addition to members and supporters of... Supporters of what? I can't even make that out. Anyway. Representatives of the council could not say how many people this proposal might affect, or what the capping limit would be at today's costs. Winston Davis, a co-chair of the Worcester Coalition for Independent Living and chair of WAZU, that was the one I mentioned before, the Worcester Coalition of Service Users, said, I am opposed to these proposals. Officers should explore more widely how to meet service users' care needs. Do not think the council considered the many social implications, particularly possible family breakup. The estimated savings of £200,000 in the first year does not warrant the potential social disruption. Many people who have contributed much to their communities now risk being marginalised. Simon Heng asked, we know the county council has to make tough choices in these times of tight budgets, but how many potholes are going to be filled for £200,000? Is your smoother car ride really worth the freedom of the most vulnerable in our communities? I will be asking my county councillor which way they will be voting on this matter in the autumn, and I urge anyone who is concerned or who has a relative or neighbour who might be affected to do the same. It could be you or yours next.
Well, that just reminded me of something that I saw a clip on TV. I don't know if anyone else caught it. This woman, this old lady, really sweet old lady, being interviewed about the care her husband had received. He had Alzheimer's and was being cared at home, and obviously she needed some support towards the end. The last year of his life, he had over 200 carers in his home, and this man had Alzheimer's. So his wife had to watch every day as different people came in and out of this poor man's life. So the last year of his life was spent with complete strangers coming in 2 or 3 times a day. It's an awful lot of carers. 200, it's like 230 something carers over the space of a year. And this poor man, this poor family, this poor couple had to, put up with. This is how we care for our sick and old people. Pretty fucking low, eh?
I think it's been said many times, you judge a society by how it treats the least, not the best. And the least people are being failed miserably. I struggle myself, I know you struggle, and we hear stories come in. I think there's another one come in from Scotland about a bloke who's on dialysis. He's been on dialysis for longer than anyone else alive. And there's a list of other things he's gone through, which is quite frankly pretty horrific. The guy deserves a medal. He does not deserve what Atos gave him. Now, admittedly, they didn't fail him completely and make him sign on and seek work. They put him in the support group to help him seek work. How generous of them.
I read about him. He's had something like 6 heart attacks. He's had multiple heart attacks. He's had, many other, I think he's died, quite a few times. Just shocking behaviour.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, even from my situation, it's a case of, from what you've been through, mate, just make sure that guy's taken care of. If you've been through that, why make life harder for you? Haven't you had enough grief in your life? Can't you just leave someone alone? Maybe give them a chance to recover.
But you're not a person to them. You're not a person to them, are you? I mean, and that's sort of pretty clear from that blog that I read out that Wild Swan and yourself had found. That blog in the Atos waiting room. The wait for 2 hours, and the poor man, shitting himself in there in front of his poor wife. It being boiling hot in there, no water. Just, I actually spoke when I was speaking to somebody on the chat room yesterday. They were kept waiting for 2 hours for their assessment, and there was nobody in front of them. So why were they kept waiting? If there was nobody in front of them, why are you sitting there waiting for 2 hours? I mean, he thought, I thought as well, to be honest, that they did it and were watching him before the assessment. I wanted to think that they were skiving, too busy having a cup of tea, which is equally fucking awful, but that's a better option than thinking they were watching him to fail him. Why? Just the standard of care, just none. That's why when the job centre rang me earlier, for this guy to give me his name, to ring me back last week, to ring me back today, when I hadn't even spoken to him. My God, that's how it should be. They should care.
I think we just have to push it. They're not going to push it. Because generally, I think you said, we're not persons to them. We are persons to them. We are just pieces of paper. We're just names and numbers and tick boxes. If you can actually explain to them and talk to them, and maybe, if you're really, really lucky, you can get them to understand that you're an ordinary person who just wants a break, you might get someone who's good enough to do it. And it's such a long shot.
That's the thing, it is a real long shot whether you're going to get somebody that has got the time for you and has a bit of respect and just a bit of manners, a bit of basic good manners, because really at the end of the day, that is all you need, is to answer the phone and not be rude and arrogant and dismissive, as so many of them are. And I would say now, it's getting, slimmer and slimmer, the amount of staff that are actually prepared to care for you. And we've both done this job. We know how fucking hard it can be when somebody's screaming at your face or chucking stuff at you or spitting at you, or do you know what I mean? You know that those people are having a particularly shite time and you wouldn't treat them like shit. Well, I know you wouldn't, and I certainly wouldn't, because they're in that state for a reason. Most of these people, and I reckon probably, I don't know, getting on like 90% of them do not give a flying fuck about any of us. They just want to come in, get paid and fuck off home. They don't want to think about their day at work. They don't want to think about the misery and the shite that's going on in this world and the people that they're seeing that are in hardship.
They don't want to think about the job. You're absolutely spot on with that. And I will tell you exactly what they're going on. They go in and they do their job. And they look at their paperwork and they move that or they transfer it to the computer or do something and they go home. And chances are when they go home, for 2 or 3 hours, they might not actually become a different person that gets them through what actually took place in work. I would imagine most of them will spend 2 or 3 hours getting themselves away from that atmosphere. And I know people who would burn me out who've actually been through this experience, and you would probably sit down and put the TV on, but you don't see a thing. You can't remember what you've seen, you don't know what you've done. A lot of these people, I think, are suffering as well, because it's going on in front of them too. They are seeing what these people are going through.
Just today when I went to the job centre to get this statement faxed, I had an appointment at 12:55. You walk in, there's security there. You've got to, say I've got an appointment. They tick off your name. This woman took me to sit down with this guy, African guy. I sat down. He went, "You haven't got an appointment. What do you want?" And I'm like, "Well, always polite. Always trying to smile, even though I'm not fucked off. But keep the smile up." Got my statement. I'm here. I made an appointment. They rang and made an appointment for me because I've not been paid since the 8th of May. Blah, blah, blah. Went, yeah, all right. Have you got the fax number? And I said, no, but it's supposed to be going to blah, blah, blah. Actually, I got it wrong, but that's what I'd been told. So he got out this bit of paper, shoved it down. He was, he didn't look too happy. But he knew I had an appointment. It had been made, and my name was on a bit of paper, so he had to see me. So I'm sitting there. I'm like signed the statement in front of him, gave him my ID. He went off to fax it, came back and was writing some bits up for me. And this woman walked, one of the other job centre staff walked past him, and as she was walking past, shoved a bit of paper, a bit of A4 paper with some stuff on it in his in tray. She walked off, carried on walking. He picked it up and threw it on the floor and said, in front of me, like I'm sat there, waiting for my paperwork back. And she's like, I'm not doing that. So I've got too much to do. I'm sick of being treated like this. And she came over and tried to make light of it. This other woman, this other job centre staff member, tried to make light of it. I think because I was there, because it's probably a bit embarrassing being spoken to like that by a colleague. I was pretty gobsmacked. So she sort of came over, was like, ha ha ha, we've all got to do extra work, ha ha ha. Put it back in his in tray. He picked it up. And chucked it back on the floor. He said, I'm not doing it. I'm absolutely categorically, I'm not doing it. And she was like, well, you need to do it. Ha 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 ha. Put it back in his in tray. So I'm sort of saying my goodbyes now because I just want to get out of there. He picked it up again and chucked it on the floor. I'm not doing it. And that was how I walked out of the job centre today after seeing it. I don't know who the fuck that bit of paper belonged to, but they certainly they're not going to be getting paid, are they? Because it's on the floor. And he don't care. He's not going to do it. She's not going to do it. So who's going to do it?
Yeah, and which of the egos will break first?
He was not going to do it. He threw that bit of paper from his in tray onto the floor, not even into the bin, onto the floor 3 times. That's how, and doing it in front of me, pretty, I thought that said, quite a lot about, the way staff are in there, because they must be overwhelmed. No excuse, but chaos.
I think it's generally good. I mean, what you can't expect it to get anything more but worse. It doesn't look like things are going to pick up. I mean, I think it's another form of Where is the logic that says throw people off disabled benefits and make them seek work? This is going to have a knock-on effect. Employers are going to be besieged with, if they thought they were a bit inundated before when they're getting 10,000 applications for 4 or 5 jobs, they could be getting more within a few months.
Which they will be. Well, I mean, I heard the jobless figures were down, I think, last month, but, probably because they're being shunted around from one benefit to the other,
But all the time, you've got more people becoming jobless. They all have to apply for 3 jobs, whether they particularly want them or are good at them or not, but they still have to do that. So there's more paperwork flowing around. It's just time-consuming shit.
The atmosphere in there today was very different from, it normally is. It's, Peckham Job Centre, it's lots of security. It is in the middle of Peckham. It has got a lot of people using the job centre that do kick off in there. I don't know if I think I probably did tell you this story, but I went in there one day and, they had them sort of tables that are screwed into the floor and the chairs that were all, screwed into the floor, sort of dotted around with the computer terminals where you can job search. I walked in one day to sign on, and one of the bits in the middle of the floor was empty. The table and the chairs had gone. I think 3 of the chairs are still there, but on the other side they'd all gone. So I went to sign on. I'm like, what's happening there? And the woman that was signing me told me that some guy had gone in there yesterday and shat on the table in the job centre because he, I don't know whether he'd not been paid. She didn't elaborate. To be honest, I didn't really care. But he'd pulled his trousers down and shat on the table. To do that, whether or not you've got mental health problems or not, to do that you must be fucking desperate. I mean, poor person. What can you say?
I actually did see up close. I actually watched some guy, homeless guy, who I think just lost the plot at the moment because his dog had died and he'd been drinking too heavily and didn't get the answers he wants. He went completely and absolutely ballistic. And I watched him physically bite through a live mains cable, punch walls till his hands bled. These things happen. People actually hit a point at the bottom. There's something. He didn't do that for the fun of it, did he? He didn't freak for the attention to get his money. He just couldn't cope no more, could he? There was nothing left.
How sad. How fucking sad.
I mean, I was actually looking through. I've got quite loads of old discs of data and videos and things, and I found some old documentaries of boys. Not documentaries. I actually found some an old drama series called Boys from the Black Stuff, and from the vague amount I remember of what I saw of it. And I grew up in that area, but from the vague amount I remember from what I saw of it, I am too scared to watch that again.
Because of how it'll make you feel?
To watch people in that, not pleasant.
No, of course not, sorry. No,
and it's happening again.
Yeah, and I think it's happening big time, isn't it?
I don't even know where this goes. We talk about things of housing benefit. I think they're saying that's changing next year again. They're going to decentralise it all and the councils will take care of everything.
Yeah, and council tax as well. And I've been reading some pretty horrible stuff about council tax and, their plans for it. I was going to talk about it today, but I just haven't been together enough. But that is, the changes that are going to come in are pretty phenomenal.
I don't know. It just doesn't seem to stop. Even if you think, all right, I'm going to do this, I can actually sort of think about what my life is doing. If you were unemployed and it's a case of I want to find a job, I will keep looking for jobs. It's being able to want to do that. It's a case of, but then they might just send me off to do voluntary work of aid to the community. But you're not given the choices.
No, there's no choice.
Why is there not more education training stuff being done? If it's a case of, do you need to do some sort of training? Can we help you with some other type of training? Is there other types of job you want to look at that we could help you get towards? None of that comes in now. I think it was, Wild Swan made a point with you. She overheard a conversation. Someone really wanted to go self-employed and the job centre really didn't care.
Which is gobsmacking, isn't it? And
Yeah.
somebody else was saying, helping people that were self-employed isn't on their agenda, and that's something else that I want to talk about, because I think that's pretty important, because there are quite a few people that were self-employed and can no longer manage financially running their company. So what's happening to all these people that were self-employed? What kind of work are they getting? Because it seems to be they are at the bottom of the barrel.
I think it's certain things, it does cut across. We're not necessarily going to get these people involved with the show because we're on the daytime. We have to look at some other issues as well. There's lots of self-employed people. They're all suffering tremendously.
Right, Nick,
I think,
we've got to say goodbye.
That's fine. I don't know if Neo's about. I think he had to go off and take care of something. So I will say goodbye and try and be back with you next week if I survive my camping.
Oh yeah, have an absolutely wonderful time. Tie your tent to a big concrete building so you don't fly away with it.
I'll survive if nothing else.
No, have a wonderful time, and thank you all for listening, and thank you for all your input. I'm sorry that we haven't had time to go through everything that you've put up in the chat box. I will go and have a chill, and I'll look back and get back in touch with everybody that wants us to. This has been Workfare and Neo and Nick from the Workfare All-Stars team on tnsradio.ning.com and scottishsovereignsontheland.ning.com. Good night. See you later, guys. Have a groovy day, and yeah,
Brother,
keep it real.
in the drum.